You are traveling to another train of thought, one not from this century. You are entering the paradigm shift.
Well, good morning. This is Monday, February 12th, 2018, and this is the Paradigm Shift on the Cerberus Radio Network, defending liberty and freedom from the flames of tyranny. I wasn't on last night with Daniel. We had a special guest on hosting with him. I was down at the annual Great American Outdoor Show, put on by an organization I won't mention, but it's a great event. They have you just can't believe how big the farm show complex is, unless you live in Pennsylvania or if you've been to the farm show complex. You just can't believe all the halls full of outfitters, vendors for archery, the gun vendors. I mean, you name the gun manufacturer, they're there. You name anyone that is related to anything you can put on a firearm, they're there. You name boat manufacturers, fishing equipment, calls for ducks, geese, turkeys, you name it. There is a hall full of that stuff. Quite literally, you just cannot believe the number of halls there are in this place, and they're enormous. Where the guns are, it's their newest hall, and it's just massive. And then the boys, the 16-year-olds, all went. Jason and all his friends went to the country concert on Saturday night and had a good time. They were there until they got back from there about 11:30. It was a good weekend. We had a lot of fun. And we ended the weekend. We went over. We intended to go to Cabela's, but we cut Cabela's out. We'd already seen enough stuff, and we ended our weekend at a gun shop that has an indoor gun range called Trops, and we shot a bunch of different things. We shot a Vectra. We shot an MP5, and it's full auto stuff. So that's the fun. You make a lot of noise, shoot a lot of bullets, spend a lot of money. We spent a lot of money. So, this weekend pretty much broke me, but we had fun. All right. Let's see. Immediately following the show will be Suzanne Sherman with the Wasatch Report. So don't stop listening as soon as the show's over. Let's see. What else? Daniel Bailey, I don't know how many shows he's doing this week. The Bailey Report, that's usually around 6:30 a.m. Eastern time. And next Sunday, unless something happens, I should be around to do the Bailey Report, the Renegade and Rambler show. So our schedule is pretty much back to normal. I don't have any other vacations set up anytime soon, so I'll be around. I think everyone else is around. Hunting seasons are pretty much over, though. Geese and duck will be coming back in here in March. I'll probably be doing a little bit of that, and outside that, it's pretty much business as normal here. We do have a low data usage stream. If you are not able to stream on YouTube because it's just too much data usage, and even the Radio Co. May be too much for some of you, there is a low data stream on Radio Co. Look on our Facebook page. There's links to both the regular high quality Radio Co. and then there's a low data usage one there too. So if you really are short of data, there's an option for you. You can still listen and it will sound good. So let's see here. Let me, I gotta minimize my screen here because I just found this story. I didn't have time to print it out, but I wanted to touch on this before we start. I'm going to make sure I'm not hitting the wrong thing and I cut you guys off. All right, here we go. This is I think this is a page called Inhabit. This is by a Greg Beach. Let's see. make it again. I'm trying to do this on the computer, so I have to move things around. This past Tuesday, Donald Trump signed a bill into law that formally recognizes climate change as a national security threat to the United States. While the president has long railed against climate change and advocated for fossil fuels, the Trump administration and the Republican-controlled Congress have taken a small but significant step towards formally recognizing climate change now that this stance has become codified law. The United States will be further pressured to act. I got to move the screen down now because now there's just a bunch of pictures of Trump signing the bill and kids. And I mean, it's all for the kids. You know, there's a kid standing right in front of him. If I can show you the picture, there's two kids standing right in front of Trump while he signs this into law with his wife in the background and all these people just in awe and worshipful behind him. Just a sickening picture. All right. It requires the Pentagon to report on specific vulnerabilities to the American military assets to climate change over the next 20 years. So they're going to spend money that they don't have, that they are now borrowing. I read that story to you last week about them borrowing $1 trillion. And lo and behold, we almost had to shut down again. And they saved us from that and signed a 2-year deal, which will add another $400 billion to what they have to borrow. So now we're up to about $1.3 plus trillion in new debt. 21 plus trillion in debt now. Let's add another almost $1.5 trillion. Heck, let's make it an even 25 trillion and call it good. So now we're going to have the military assessing what normal climate change, because think about it, it's cold out there. It's not as cold today as it was because everything's melting off. It got a little warmer. The climate changed over the last few days. Is that amazing or what? So they're going to now assess how climate change is going to affect the military over the next 20 years. How many hundreds of billions of dollars are they going to spend to do that? In addition, the amendment formally recognizes that the scientific community, oh my gosh, there is no scientific community that agrees that climate change is going to destroy the world. The scientific community and the United States military have been saying for years, climate change is a direct threat to the national security of the United States. Blah, blah, blah. Yeah, right. Reads the law and is impacting stability in areas of the world where the United States armed forces are operating today. Those areas are being impacted by us dropping bombs on them. It's not being impacted by the weather. It's these bunker busters and these Tomahawk cruise missiles and everything else we're dropping on them. Just remember a couple years ago, they dropped the mother of all bombs, the Moab, over in Afghanistan. You don't think that affected them over there? I think that affected them more than some cold snap or some rainy storm. And where strategic implications for future conflicts exist. Oh, good grief. Future conflicts. What, they're already looking for some more places they can go bomb? Since Trump made national security a key plank of his campaign platform, he will under further pressure. He will be under further pressure, for you English-speaking people, to act. Whether the president chooses to do so remains doubtful. All right, let me get my screens back up so I can see what's going on. Make sure everything's still working. Make sure the government hasn't shut me off. Good grief. Looking for future... well, we aren't killing enough people around the world, all in the name of American exceptionalism. Spreading American exceptionalism around the world at the tip of a bomb. Let's bomb some more people. Let's find some more future conflicts we can be in. This is insanity. Why did a lot of us vote for Trump? I'm going to be honest with you. I voted for Donald Trump. I couldn't vote for Hillary. There was just no way. But why did we vote? Why did a lot of us vote for Donald Trump? I can tell you two things. His supposed stance against abortion. What has happened with abortion? Have they just passed another big spending bill? They're going to spend trillions more. They just increased the spending. They didn't cut spending. They're already in debt. They're already borrowing $1 trillion, but they just doubled down on it and added to what they had to borrow. Did they defund Planned Parenthood? Did the Republicans who control the House, the Senate, and the White House so they could do whatever they want, did they defund Planned Parenthood? No. That was their big thing. They were going to defund it. If you just give us the Senate, just give us the Congress, give us the presidency, and we'll defund them. We'll make sure that they don't use tax dollars to kill babies. Didn't happen. So I voted for him because he was going to end abortion. And he is not going to. Second thing I voted him for because he was talking like he was a non-interventionist, that he wasn't going to go all over the world, bomb everyone into our American exceptionalism, and have our young men and women killed, maimed, and damaged, where they come back with PTSD and everything else because these, now, let's see, 2001, we're in 18, so 17 years of war. Never-ending war. Damaging our youth. So I thought maybe, just maybe, he actually meant it and we wouldn't be all over the world being the world's policeman. Well, I trusted him for the first one, not happening. Trusted him for the second one, not happening. They're looking for future conflicts to be involved in. Now do you understand why I read Patrick Henry to you guys, why I read Brutus to you guys. These guys warned us of this system of government that we have. I'm going to get my... Oh, there it is. I put it over there. I was looking for my Patrick Henry. All right, so let me just start here. We are come hither to preserve the poor Commonwealth of Virginia. Why would he be there to preserve the Commonwealth of Virginia? Because that was his country. Earlier on this, in his speech, here, this is the speech from June 5th, 1788, before the Virginia Ratifying Convention. I've read the first page of this pretty much already. It's important that we understand why he opposed it, because he knew that his country was going to be turned into a mere county or a mere subdivision of the general government. So he's talking, why is he there? To preserve his Commonwealth of Virginia. If it can be possibly done, something must be done to preserve our your liberty and mine. What did he say earlier about the object of government? I'll go back because some of you haven't heard this. Let's see here. You are not to inquire how your trade may be increased, nor how you are to become a great and powerful people, but how your liberties can be secured. For liberty ought to be the direct end of your government. So he's coming back to that idea that liberty is what needs to be defended. The Confederation, this same despised government, merits, in my opinion, the highest encomium. What is he talking about? What Confederation is he talking about? He's talking about the Articles of Confederation. When the Philadelphia Convention was impaneled by the states, they were told to go there to come up with some amendments, to just tweak the Articles of Confederation a little bit, because there were some little minor weaknesses that they wanted to change so that they could work together a little bit better. What happened was they wrote a whole new constitution. And Henry warned against ratifying this. He and a bunch of others, like I said, I read to you months ago, the first Brutus 1, that was his first writing. That was probably Robert Yates of New York. And he warned of the same thing. He had some other areas that he was warning about. But they went there to just amend the articles, but it ended up becoming more. They came up with a whole new system of government, which gave us this. Under the Articles of Confederation, there was not an executive. So we wouldn't have Donald Trump going out there and doing all the things he's trying to do by executive order, or Obama doing the same thing. We wouldn't have this strong executive like we do today if we were still under the Articles of Confederation. And Congress would be much weaker. They wouldn't have the ability to do the stuff they're doing. See why the Articles, why I say we need to go back to the Articles? Because the states would handle everything, and then the federal government, under the Articles of Confederation, would handle just little bits, very little bits. They would have almost no authority to do anything. All right, so let's see. This Confederation, this same despised government, merits, in my opinion, the highest encomium. It carried us through a long and dangerous war. It rendered us victorious in that bloody conflict with a powerful nation. It has secured us territory greater than any European monarch possesses. And shall a government which has been thus strong and vigorous be accused of imbecility and abandoned for want of energy? Consider what you're about to do before you part with the government. Take longer time in reckoning things. Revolutions like this have happened in almost every country in Europe. Similar examples have been found in ancient Greece and ancient Rome. Instances of the people losing their liberty by their own carelessness and ambition of a few. Have we lost our liberties because of our own carelessness? Because of the ambition of few? There wasn't very many that really supported this Constitution at the Philadelphia Convention. Matter of fact, one state didn't even show up. They said, that's not what we were called for. There was only 12 of the 13 there. Why? Because that wasn't what they were called to do. So the ambitions of a few, you had Hamilton and Madison that were the prime movers behind the Constitution. And what did Madison and Hamilton want? They wanted a strong national government. See, there's a difference here. We're not a nation. This government is not national. Well, by design, it's not supposed to be. It's supposed to be just a union of 50 states working together for limited purposes. Well, in reality, I believe by design, Madison and Hamilton set it up so that we have what we have today. All right. So, and we have ambitious people today. I mean, let's face it. We are cautioned by the honorable gentleman who presides against faction and turbulence. I acknowledge that licentiousness is dangerous and that it ought to be provided against. I acknowledge also the new form of government may effectually prevent it. Yet there is another thing it will effectually do. It will oppress and ruin the people. Do you think, was Patrick Henry mincing any words about this new Constitution? What did he really think? It's going to oppress and ruin the people. Look at today. We are ruined. I just talked about Trump signing legislation, agreeing that climate change is a threat, and they're going to study how it impacts our military, how it's going to impact future wars that we get into. We are ruined. We're almost 22 trillion, 21 trillion in debt. They're talking about adding another 1.5 trillion, basically. We're going to be at almost 23 trillion in the next couple of years. We'll probably be over 23 trillion in the next couple of years. I mean, they have ruined us. Patrick Henry was correct. If you think that this is not ruined, wait till this all crashes down. Wait till there's no more money to borrow. They can't print any more money. And wait to see how big this depression is compared to the so-called Great Depression. All right. It's 21 after. I ran a little long, but I can do that. This is the Cerberus Radio Network, defending liberty and freedom from the flames of tyranny. I'm your host, Jeff Johnson, with the Paradigm Shift. Let's take a quick break, and I will return right after I make noise. All right, let's try that again. Let's open this one, and let's try this break.
To keep up with this trucker, Daniel Bailey, in the Bailey Report on the Cerberus Radio Network. Looking for a new custom camo dress or scarf? Tail Gunner Apparel. Looking for bath and body products for women and men? Tail Gunner Apparel. Looking for bed scarves and custom home products? Tail Gunner Apparel. Look awesome and feel even better. Tail Gunner Apparel on Facebook or at tailgunnerapparel.etsy.com. That's tailgunnerapparel.etsy.com.
Made love and then you cried, remember when?
Cerberus Radio Network, protecting liberty and freedom from the flames of tyranny.
Well, welcome back to the Paradigm Shift here on the Cerberus Radio Network, defending liberty and freedom from the flames of tyranny. So, let's change gears. I don't know. Let's start here. I did mention this a little bit in the last segment. We barely escaped another government shutdown. It only shut down for a few hours. They saved us from a fate worse than death. They worked hard through the night to come up with a plan to steal another $500 billion from us. And this is from the point Chris Cizilla. He's a CNN editor at large. So this must be from CNN. Yes, it is CNN. When Rand Paul took to control the Senate floor just before 6 p.m. Eastern, virtually every one of his Republican colleagues grimaced. Why? Because they are all in it together. There might be a couple. Ron Paul might be against it. There might be another senator, maybe two, that are really, truly against this. In the House, there may be 5 or 6 that are truly against this. Again, I've had this conversation with some people that run for these general government offices. I said, listen, do you truly think that one person going up there is going to change this massive Leviathan, as another friend of ours always called it? Do you truly believe sending one more senator to Washington, D.C., so that there's two of them that actually truly don't want to do this stuff? Do you think those two guys or gals will make that big a difference? No. Look at Rand Paul went to the floor, was there for hours. And what happened? They got together with their Democrat the other side of the coin. I've called it that for a long time. Two sides of the same socialist coin. They're all Marxists. You got the Republican side of the Marxist coin. You got the Democrat side of the Marxist coin. They're all Marxists. They're all doing the same thing. You may have one or two, again, like I said, that don't believe in this stuff and don't want to do it. But what effect did Rand Paul truly have? Okay, he might have changed the minds of a few people, and that's good. That's why we're here. I mean, if we didn't think that we could hopefully change minds, we wouldn't be doing this ourselves, Suzanne and I. And all right, what just happened? I do not know. It looks like I'm still on the air, but everything went crazy for a second there. All right. Anyway, if Suzanne and I and Daniel and all the others that we play there, like Sean Hoffheim, if none of us thought we could make a difference and we could educate people and maybe change some minds, we wouldn't be doing this. Quite honestly, it's just, it would just be, why bother? But in reality, is there hope to change? If sending one new guy to Washington, D.C. as a new senator, does that going to change Washington, D.C.? No. So my conversation with these people that are running for these offices, I said, listen, here's where you should put your effort. Run for state office. Because the people closest to you, that you can affect change in your state. You have a better chance of affecting change in your state than you do at the federal government. So anyway, he got up at 6 p.m. Eastern. All his colleagues grimaced because, again, like I said, they're all in it together. 5 years ago, they would have cheered him. Okay. Just hold on to that thought. Paul's speech, which slowed attempts to pass a massive budget deal before the government shuts down at midnight, was savaging his own party, a party that appears to have turned 180 degrees from the deficit hawks of the mid-2010s, who insisted that government spending was ballooning out of control and was crippling the country. When the government, quote, when the Democrats are in power, Republicans appear to be the conservative party, Paul said at one point. Continuing, but when Republicans are in power, it seems there is no conservative party. The hypocrisy hangs in the air and chokes anyone with a sense of decency or intellectual honesty. Again, for you English-speaking people, unquote. He is 100% right. That's what the article says. And I agree. He is 100% right. When the Republicans aren't in power, to get the elections, they need to get into power. They talk the talk. They sound all conservative, all fiscally conservative. Then when they get in, they let their true colors show, and they join their Democrats on the other side of the coin, and they pass all this spending. The simple fact is that Republicans in the Obama era define themselves as primarily as committed to reducing government spending and shrinking the nation's debt. I don't know. There must be something missing from this sentence. All right. I'll just skip there because it doesn't make any sense. There's something missing from the article. It condensed it or something. So anyway, Rand Paul is correct. When the Democrats are in power, the Republicans are all about cutting spending. Think back to all the obstructionism and everything else that the Democrats said the Republicans were when the Democrats had the House, the Senate, and the White House. When Obama was in there, they're killing the country. They're overspending. They're going to destroy us. The debt's ballooning out of control. And what now do we have with the Republicans in charge? They're doubling down on the spending. They're doubling down on the debt. Did they reduce any spending in this so-called budget deal? No. And in fact, as I said, they increased the spending by anywhere from $250 billion to around $400 billion. Again, we don't even know. You get different stories, you have different numbers. So we're not being told the truth about how much they're spending. So in reality, if it's anywhere from $250 to $400 billion, in reality, it's probably going to be closer to $600 or $700 billion. It'll probably be almost $2 trillion they'll have to borrow. We never get a straight answer from them, and they never spend less than what they say they're going to spend. When's the last time governments spend less than what they say they're going to spend? They always increase spending. It's just the rate at which they increase the spending. All right, so they've been saying they talk about this new spending and how much debt they're going to be taking on, and it's ballooning over what supposedly Obama did. But the thing is, there was always an increase in the debt. They never cut spending. They never got to the point where they claimed to cut spending. But it was only in the amount of increase in the spending. So, say that it's going to go up by $500 billion. It went up by $400 billion. They just reduced the amount of spending just a little bit, but it's still going up. Where you and I, if we're $1,000 over budget every month, we make $4,000 and we're spending $5,000 every month. Which obviously we can't do because we can't print that much money. And eventually we're not going to be able to borrow that much money because the banks will say, nope, we're done. So if we are overspending, can we just, oh, well, you know what? I'm just going to overspend by $750 a month, not $1,000. I'm just going to drop it down. I cut spending. You're still in the hole. That's what they do. You and I, if we're making $3,000 a month and we're spending or making $4,000 a month and we're spending $5,000, we have to cut $1,000, and more than likely, most of us are have to cut $1,500 or $2,000 a month just to get back to where we can put a little money away, so we aren't in that situation again. All right, so I think that's enough with Ron Paul for now. But the fact of the matter is, they're spending us into oblivion. They're borrowing us into oblivion. They're not ending these foreign wars that are costing us billions. It is time to change something. Whether it's we stop this national disaster and start. Okay. If you listen to K Talk the other morning, Suzanne had Dan Fisher from Oklahoma on. He's running for governor. He's running in the primary to be the Republican candidate for governor in Oklahoma. Number one, he's a federalist. He believes that the state is sovereign, the state is in charge, and the federal government doesn't have authority to tell the state how to run the state or what laws it can pass and what laws it can enforce. The other thing is he's an abolitionist. He believes in abolishing the murder of babies. Okay, let's just call it what it is. They're killing a human baby that just hasn't been born yet. He wants to abolish it. And honestly, you look at the pro-life movement, what have they accomplished since Roe v. Wade in the 70s? They've accomplished in getting you to give them hundreds of millions of dollars. Think about it. What have they gotten done? There's still babies being murdered every day. But you keep sending them money. Oh, let's go to a march in Washington, D.C. Okay, I have nothing problem. I have no problem with that march. But all these organizations, they have this march. Oh, we need money to run this march. Send us money. We're going to fight against partial birth abortion. Send us money. Not going to worry about all the other abortions, just the one. The pro-life movement has done a great job at getting you to send them money. So Dan Fisher is an abolitionist. So if you had a chance to listen the other day, you heard somebody that's working at the state level to actually make changes. Whether Dan wins or not, I don't know. I pray he does. That would be a great shining example. Other states might actually start to see that they are in charge. They don't have to obey their federal masters. We read the story last week about Jeff Sessions going to court to fight some 12-year-old with epilepsy that has a prescription for medical marijuana because the marijuana helps with the epilepsy when the seizures. Why is this 12-year-old being taken to a court? Even if it's a federal court. If it's a state court, the state court should be throwing it out. The federal government has no authority over this person's, number one, well, they've stolen his medical care. They've put it in the national government. But the state of wherever this kid was ought to have said, this is none of your business. Go pound sand. We'll defend this child. If you try to come and take this kid to court, try to do anything legally against this child, we will arrest you. That's what they should do. Jeff Sessions has no authority. Never go in the Constitution and find me the article and clause where the general government is given municipal powers of policing. I can cite 3 laws that they're given authority to prosecute. 3. This isn't one of them. Show me where there's supposed to be an FBI. Show me where there's supposed to be an ATF. Show me where there's supposed to be a BTAF or BTAF is, or BLM. That's the one I was looking for. Show me where they have policing powers. Find it in the Constitution. You're not going to find it. Go ahead and look. You're not going to find it. Again, going back to Patrick Henry, was he right? Have they destroyed our liberty? Yes. Patrick Henry was correct. Patrick Henry warned us that this is what was going to happen, and this is what has happened. Let's take a quick break. Let me see if I can do this without making a lot of noise in the background so that you go right to break and that we don't have all the dings and all the other wonderful things. All right, this is The Paradigm Shift. I'm your host, Jeff Johnson. This is the Cerberus Radio Network, defending liberty and freedom from the flames of tyranny.
What's killing the crops is this Brondo stuff.
The Brondo's got what plants crave. It's got electrolytes.
So wait a minute. What you're saying is that you want us to put water on the crops?
Yes.
Water? Like out the toilet?
Well, I mean, it doesn't have to be out of the toilet, but yeah, that's the idea.
But Brondo's got what plants crave.
It's got electrolytes.
Okay, look. The plants aren't growing, so I'm pretty sure that the Brondo's not working. Now, I'm no botanist, but I do know that if you put water on plants, they grow.
Oh, well, I've never seen no plants grow out of no toilet.
Hey, that's good. You sure you ain't the smartest guy in the world?
Yeah.
Okay, look, you want to solve this problem. I want to get my pardon, so why don't we just try it, okay? And not worry about what plants crave.
Brondo's got what plants crave.
Yeah, it's got electrolytes.
What are electrolytes? Do you even know?
It's what they use to make Brondo.
Yeah, but why did they use them to make Brondo?
Because Brondo's got electrolytes.
Suzanne Sherman, shooting straight on everything from prepping to politics. The Wasatch Report, every Monday morning, 10 a.m. Eastern, on the Cerberus Radio Network. Cerberus Radio Network, protecting liberty and freedom from the flames of tyranny.
Well, welcome back to the Paradigm Shift here on the Cerberus Radio Network. I'm your host, Jeff Johnson, and the Cerberus Radio Network, we defend liberty and freedom from the flames of tyranny. All right, let's jump away from that for a second. Let's go to this article here I found. This is from the Foundation for Economic Education, Wednesday, February 7th, 2018, by Charles Hughes. Seattle residents will outsmart its soda tax. Seattle recently became the largest major city to enact a sweetened beverage tax. In response to the new levy, some retailers have calculated how much of the price is due to the tax, and customers are reeling from sticker shock. One local reporter found that the tax added $10.34 to a case of Gatorade, bringing the final price to more than $26. Can you imagine going to the store to buy a case of Gatorade and paying $26 for that? And it's all, well, better than half of it is probably tax, because this is on top of sales tax. Other sweetened beverage taxes were beset by problems in 2017. In Philadelphia, tax revenues have fallen short of projections. Cook County has already voted to repeal its tax due to a myriad of problems with design, implementation, and deep unpopularity. You think? You think it's unpopular? Seattle's tax differs in some particulars, but it has been justified on various grounds at different times, which lends a degree of incoherence to how it was formulated and implemented. The confusion regarding the tax's intended purpose stems from the unwillingness to acknowledge any trade-offs or adverse consequences that might be associated with it. There's going to be adverse consequences, and they're going to talk about here. What does the burden of the tax, who does it fall on? One of the jurisdictions for beverage taxes is that justifications is that customers will respond to price changes by reducing consumptions of tax beverages. You like Gatorade. Are you going to stop drinking Gatorade because the city, in this case Seattle, put it in your local city? All right, and I'm right next to Elmira, New York, which is the biggest city near me. If Elmira, New York decided to sell sodas with a sugar tax to try to get people to stop drinking them, and that's what this is designed. This is designed just as this is just like all the added cigarette taxes that were put on years ago to get people to quit smoking. I'll give you a little story. I might have been 18. I had a job. I was working over near Camden, New Jersey. I worked at this building supply company. And a bunch of the guys that I worked with there smoked. And I vividly remember, I marked it just in my mind because I was waiting to see. He said, this one guy said, if a pack of cigarettes cost me more than $1, I'm going to quit. The price of cigarettes went up to $1.25, $1.50, and he continued to smoke. So, raising these taxes, is it going to force people to smoke? There may be a few. Some may decide it's just not worth it. But if you live where I live, people in Elmira, because New York has jacked their taxes up to force people not to smoke, those people in Elmira come across the state line. There's a Smoking Joe's and another Sheddens right on the state line. Both of them sell cigarettes at Pennsylvania prices, which are about $4 a pack less. Guess where everyone in New York goes? They go across the border. Did they quit smoking? No, they just found a way to bypass it. The mechanisms here is straightforward. Tax something to get less of it. If people were to substitute diet sodas and other less harmful beverages for sugared sodas, they would be healthier. Is it your choice to drink Gatorade? Or is it their job to force you to do what they want? Again, let's go back to Patrick Henry here. Are they defending liberty? Or are they taking your liberty away? Obviously, the answer is they're taking your liberty away. How can you argue anything but that? There's no way you can argue anything but that. The city of Seattle denies that the consumers respond to higher prices. On the city government's website explaining the tax, and the Finance and Administrative Services Department takes pains to mention explicitly that the tax is not collected by the retailer, nor is the tax burden intended to fall on the consumer. Then how in the hell do they get the tax if the vendor's not? That makes no sense. If they're not collecting it, then they're not taxing it. Obviously, someone's collecting it. The intent of the sweetened beverage tax is to tax the distributions of sweetened beverages into Seattle. All right, so they're trying to tax the guy that's bringing it in. So the guy that's bringing it in, he now has to price it $10 and some cents more. So who's paying the tax? Is the vendor that's bringing it in paying that tax, or are you? You are still paying the tax. They're being disingenuous. This is all just typical government lies. The burden of the tax is supposed to completely bypass the consumer. What hogwash? If you truly believe, let's go back to this one here. Got in a little discussion on Facebook over the minimum wage. If you truly believe that this tax, because it's put on somebody else, doesn't affect you, or you somehow believe that raising the minimum wage does not affect you, you are either naive or you're lying to yourself. This tax will become a direct cost. So, again, that $13 case of Gatorade has to be now $23.75 to pay for the tax. It has to affect you. You cannot possibly not be affected by it. Just as if they raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour, you are a receptionist at a doctor's office. That doctor's office is kind enough to pay you $18 an hour to be a receptionist there. Right now, you have the buying power $11 over the current minimum wage. If they raise the minimum wage to $15, you now you have the spending power of only $3 an hour over the costs placed on products by a $15 an hour minimum wage. They've driven you down towards a minimum wage job. So congratulations. Support a minimum wage. Okay, if the minimum wage isn't affected by the rules of economics, that this is not, it's just going to be absorbed by some business somewhere. They're not going to pass the cost on. If you truly believe that, then raise the freaking minimum wage to $100 an hour. If it doesn't affect, if $15 an hour doesn't affect it, economics, then $100 an hour won't affect it either. Who cares? That business will just eat the cost. See how absurd this whole notion is? Raising this tax, and just because they're placing it on somebody else, they somehow think it's not going to affect the consumer. Come on, folks. Be a little honest here. Whatever the city states, not all of the tax will be borne by the distributors. Some of the burden will fall on stores and consumers. They will respond to the change in the price in some way or another. The less visible, frequently asked question document for the tax acknowledges this: as the ordinance does not prohibit a business from passing on the expense of this tax. Of course it doesn't, because no one would bring anything into Seattle if they weren't able to pass the cost on. It would put them out of business. They have to pass the cost on. Just as if you raise the minimum wage, that business has to pass the cost on, or they'll fire a bunch of people and put kiosks. I was telling this story the other day when I talked about that article here in Pennsylvania where they're trying to raise the minimum wage to $15. This little town south of me, just a little hamlet called Troy, Pennsylvania. The McDonald's there has 2 kiosks, double sides, so you can go on either side and place your orders. Already has 4 stations for you to place orders. Minimum wage goes to $15 an hour. Those 6 people that are employed out back will become 2. Those 4 other people, see you later. Go find a job. Good luck. Minimum abilities, because you are young, more likely a high school kid. This is a part-time job while they're at school, so they can raise money, so they have money for insurance and gas for their car, so they can drive to school. See, there are consequences to government legislating everything. I talk often, and I'm going to close out with this, and the show's going to end because I have to set up for Suzanne. I talk often about Pennsylvania raising the gasoline taxes, being one of the highest tax states in the United States now. What do? I starve the beast. I go across the other way, where New Yorkers are coming down into Pennsylvania for their cigarettes. I'm going into New York, and I'm buying my gas there, or my diesel, because I have a Duramax. I go up there and I spend 40 cents a gallon less, all tax. That's what these people are going to do. And that's what the story goes on to say. Don't have time. These people are going outside the city limits and they're buying their stuff elsewhere. So all these businesses in the cities are losing not only those sales, they're losing other sales, because why would you go there to buy your Gatorade and then drive back there to go buy your groceries? So they're going outside the city, buying their groceries, buying their drinks, and not paying the tax. They're not going to get the tax, and those businesses in the city are going to go out of business, because eventually they're going to lose so much business by people going elsewhere. They're just not going to be able to stay in business. All right. That's it for today. Thank you for listening. Just do stay tuned, though, because in just a few minutes, Suzanne Sherman will be on with the Wasatch Report. Please stay tuned. I'm going to let the music start playing. And this is the Paradigm Shift. I'm your host, Jeff Johnson, on the Cerberus Radio Network, defending liberty and freedom from the flames of tyranny. Had to turn the thing on. That's the joys of producing your show while you're trying to do it live. Thank you. Have a good day. See you in just a few minutes with Suzanne's show.